Zon Carvalho, we got you in the studio. Appreciate you being here.
Happy to be here, man. Thanks for
You've
having me.
you've had a crazy life, and we want people to hear that story. You were literally an international model in your teens. You didn't find it to be anything that you wanted out of life. You had too much expression that you weren't getting out by just being a pretty face. And so you left that, you got into art, you come from a family of wealth, and you turned your back on it to do what you wanted to do. And I want you to tell your story, and I want you to get that out there because you're just one of the most unrelenting people that I know. And I love the fact that you're doing everything according to your plan.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. So tell the
Thanks,
audience
man.
about yourself, brother.
Yeah, I'm Zon Carvalho. I'm born and raised in Brazil. I lived there until I was about 19 years old. And I lived in Tokyo for about 6 months when I was modeling. And I moved to the United States 35 years ago. It was 1990, January of 1990. And in the pursuit of, I didn't even know at the time, there was an artistic career. I came here for computer graphics and some other animation things. And one night I made a turn in a street that I didn't know in Columbus, Ohio, and I drove by the Columbus College of Art and Design. Up until that point, I was not an artist. I didn't draw. I didn't paint. That was not anything that I did. However, I was really interested, and I joined the school. They asked me, like to show them if I could draw, and up to that point, I'd never done anything. So they showed me what they were looking for, like still lifes, like a setting on your table, like a teacup and a candle, things like that on top of a book.
Yeah.
And I went home, and 2 weeks later, I came back with about 15 drawings or so, and then I got admitted into the school. They were good enough, to get started, and that was just the beginning, of everything art related. I learned how to draw, how to paint, like the techniques out of it all. And I remember one thing in particular. I had a teacher called Mr. King, and he was my drawing teacher. And one day he came up to me and saw something that I was doing, and he's like, "Have you ever sculpted before?" I was like, "No." And he's like, "Well, let me know when you do." And that was like really interesting to me. So yeah, I came here in the pursuit of art, and I learned a lot about it. And then I had to figure out how to fend for myself. Like my father wasn't supporting me anymore. I was very, very blessed, to have him pay for my art school. And when I decided like to change schools and stuff, he was like, "Not gonna happen. You give you 6 months. You either figure out what you're going to do or you're coming back." And at that point, I was like, I learned how to silkscreen. I was like, okay, I know how to make art, so let's go make apparel. So in the summer of 1993, I met some people that had a screen shop and a big warehouse, and they're all artists, and we just hit it off. And then I rented a space in their warehouse, start creating art and painting with them. Up until that point, I had never really painted. I got inspired by them. I started painting. I learned how to, do silkscreen and do put my art into it and stuff. And that was the beginning of my entrepreneurial career, of lifestyle, because not a career, when I was 23. From that point, I've been in the pursuit of learning more about art, but it's not even about learning. It's more about like immersing myself into it, because the way that I use art is to really illustrate things that might seem like complex issues into the world. That I really want to empower and inspire people to really go after like that heart's desire that they have, that crazy idea, that crazy, that unachievable, the unexplainable desire, towards the pursuit of something. And I feel like there's so many people, like the whole world, like by the time that we were like 7 years old, we heard the word no, like however many thousands of times, so all of that domestication, of that conditioning of the human spirit, to fit in a box, to work in a cubicle, all of that, I'm here to destroy that fucking paradigm. I want people to like really go after the things that they believe they want to. And this is what I've been doing, and it has not been easy, man. Like it's been like a road that it's been a challenging and beautiful experience, because what you mentioned of me being relentless, within this pursuit. This is the beautiful part of it. It's not necessarily about my skill set as an artist or an entrepreneur and stuff or anything like that. Is that, am I really being truthful to that voice in my heart?
And you have really inspirational art. Mm-hmm. Like I've seen a lot of your work. It constantly invokes emotion, no matter which piece it is. Mm-hmm. And so the concept of, yes, the art is good. Yes, the time is right. Mm-hmm. But it's about who you are. It's about the fact that you push through.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the theme for this topic that I want to, or this section that I want to talk about, mm-hmm. is the topic of, do you feel deserving? Mm-hmm. Because if you didn't feel deserving, you wouldn't have pushed through.
Absolutely.
Or maybe you don't feel deserving, and so you push harder. Mm-hmm. So where are you at with that?
At the moment, I feel like incredibly blessed and very, very deserving, because the last 10 years have been the toughest of all of them together, for me. So I feel that now I'm in a place that I feel that it's been so much effort and persistency and commitment and discipline towards, my career as an artist only, not as a designer, not as an apparel producer, not as an entrepreneur, nothing, just producing art, that I feel that I'm really like embracing, like my deservingness of achieving this dream. I know that so many times in my life in the past, I did self-sabotage. Things would happen, and then all of a sudden, oh wow, well, it's like the devil that we know, versus the one that we don't.
Right.
And after a while, man, that got really I got really sick of it. Like I got really sick of living a life that wasn't in integrity with the deepest desire that I had in my heart, like this vision that I had that to become this person, so very few times that I had to like get real jobs and stuff in my life, it was like freaking murder. Yeah, it was like, I really felt like I was like selling my soul in exchange for never enough money.
Right. So what was your breaking point on that, where you just said, I've had enough, I'm an artist, this is what I'm doing, sink or swim?
It was in 2018, 2019, when my life really took like a really hardcore turn, with divorce, with my mental health and everything, stuff like that my ex-wife was going through. And, we have 3 boys at that time. Not in 2019, but in 2015, that's when it started, the challenges, if you will. But by 2019, so 4 years later, I really had enough. I saw that how much effort and time and I was wasting, trying to do something that was against like my principles, the desire, like really in my heart.
Yeah.
So in 2019, I made a commitment, that I was going to, this is it, I'm going to become a world famous artist, and I'm starting right now. At that point, like the things that worked in my favor at that point was social media, especially like going live, and reels didn't even exist, at that point and stuff. So I just went for it. I showed up. I went live for 2 years in a row, for on Facebook and Instagram, like at the same time, every day, because I really wanted to like talk about my art. I really wanted to talk about what the art meant. I really wanted to express to the world the things that I was learning, that I was getting so excited about, and how this was transferring and transforming into my art. Like now, even Brandon went to my one of my art openings, and then we were hanging out, and I had a chance to explain to him some of the pieces and what is behind it. What does it mean? And the message really changes once you get to know what it is about. And to me, or for me, the only way that I can spend the time, especially after selling myself out for so many years to like jobs and things that seemed to be safer ways to go about than just to be an artist, I was like just tired of that. So I just jumped all the way into it, into conveying the message, the things that I was learning about personal growth, about spirituality, all of that, in putting into the art, and then talking about it to people, and I was super excited to share. And then, it started gaining traction, or started gaining followers. And at that time, I would have like hundreds of people watching a live, and it was really helpful to sell and start moving some artwork. I moved to Flagstaff, and I got an amazing, beautiful studio in the mountains, and I painted for 2 years straight. I created over 400 pieces of art. I had a chance to like hone in into my going live, hone in into what the art means, and just really be committed to it 24/7 without any other distractions of anything else, besides my boys, having my kids. But, that's not a distraction, right? That's a blessing.
So in that, as far as your art goes, like you just said, okay, I did this thing. I have the time now. I have the resources. But most people aren't willing to go all in and shove all their chips into the pot unless they do believe in themselves. Now,
Right.
did you believe in your art? Or did you believe in yourself more, your unrelenting spirit?
Myself.
Okay.
Because the art always evolves and changes, so it's not necessarily like that I am the best at blending or whatever color technique thing. You know what I mean? Like my merits are not as an artist or as a thinker. I have the ability to transfer these thoughts into an art form that then can be used as a storytelling item to convey that thought and inspire and empower people.
And that's like Kobe, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, like whomever you want to mention, the big names, the pros of whatever it is that people want to call them talented for. They're talented because they got their reps in, because they were unrelenting, because they never stopped doing what they wanted.
Yeah. And, Michael Jordan. So there is this guy named Tim Grover. Tim Grover wrote the book Relentless. And he was the personal coach for Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, all of those guys. So, and I don't know how many times I listened to the book, So this was the kind of stuff that I kept feeding myself intellectually and stuff to stay on path, because it's super easy to be discouraged, when you're not committed. Or no, let's rewind that. It's easy to be discouraged if you're not being empowered. You know what I mean? And the way the things that I chose to empower myself was knowledge, was books, was friends, the circle that I kept, the courses that I took, that kind of stuff, because I believe that all of that was like a adding up for me to become the man that I dream of becoming, the man that I know that I am inside.
Yeah, I say it all the time. Everything happens for a reason, whether it is according to your plan or not. And personally, I've had a ton of setbacks in my life. I could sit here and go victim and, oh, this is why I'm not a multi-billionaire by now.
Sure.
And yet, like, I have a beautiful life. all of these things that didn't go the way that I thought that they should have led me to being here right now.
Absolutely, man. You know, that's that concept of like things always happening for us, not to us.
Absolutely.
You know, and that is the challenge. It's like even when that time when things were horrible and dark and I did not know which way was up or what was going to happen the next minute or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, those are the times that, you know, that was the conviction of knowing that there is something better. You know, I met my ex-wife at a personal development game. As a matter of fact, it was a game. It's a 90-day long game that you set goals in 4 different areas of your life, and you fucking go at it. And we're both playing, and we really hit it off. You know, 2 weeks after the game was over, we got married, and we didn't have a job. We didn't, like, I had, like, you know, I've always been a freelance graphic designer, so I can always bang stuff out and make money with it, you know. So, but it's not like a full-time thing, so it's, you know, not really something you could count on. Anyway, what I mean by all this is that we started something together at that time that became life-changing. You know, we started a company that we were taking newborn baby photography at hospitals, and within 3 years, we had 14 hospitals in 7 different states. We had a staff of over 35 photographers, full-time, 7 days a week, and we were running it. You know, it was beautiful. We had a beautiful house in the countryside, right outside of Denver, 5 bedrooms, all the things, deers roaming around in the yard. Life was great. 2 boys were born at that time, and everything was progressing exponentially and amazingly. And
can I recap on that real quick? So
Yeah.
you met this woman in a program that was ultimately a goal setting program.
Right.
You guys hit it off, connected. It all just made sense, fell in love, got married, created a business that ultimately just took off and became very, very big, had your own employees. I mean, like, this is a full on company that you had a great deal of responsibility. So the level of success was quite high. The ROI was just fantastic. Bought a home in Denver, living in Denver, creating life together. How many children do you have?
I have 3 now. At that
3
point,
total.
I had
Okay, so
2.
2. And question, right around the time you guys started having children, did you have any notices about her demeanor change or anything? So everything was on the straight and narrow all the way through that. Okay,
Absolutely.
wow, that's a lot. That's pretty incredible. So sorry to interrupt.
No,
Please
not
continue.
at all. Thanks for, you know. Yeah, man, everything was killer. You know, like, we had several businesses, all photography based and stuff. I started a clothing line of my own towards fitness people. I sponsored a ton of bodybuilders. Some of them are still my friends to this day. And we decided to have another baby, you know, and then that's when things just started like to go south with her health. After the 3rd month of the pregnancy, she was like wheelchair bound, you know, for most of the time, just because of her body, her hips and stuff were like, she has a condition that we come to learn about it recently, that is about like your ligaments and your joints and everything like that is like super, I think it's called POTS or something. I'm not really sure.
Could be. Sure.
But it's like, you know, so your body has a higher chance of like things like your shoulder falling off, you know what I mean? Like, you know, people's shoulders fall and stuff, or, you know, so anyway, what happened with her was like that her hips started to separate so much because of the pregnancy. The elastin is the hormone that allows women's body to elasticize, you know, that her hips could not hold her weight anymore. And that's why she was in a wheelchair. And that was, you know, traumatic, of course. You know, we had to move from Denver. We moved here. And after the baby was born, we really thought, and she was in an incredible amount of pain this whole time because her, like, literally, like, you know, when the pelvic bone, like right on the front up here, you know, there's like where the pelvic bone connects. I could put 2 fingers, you know, that's how separated everything was. You know, so we thought that once, you know, Henry is his name now, you know, was born, that things would totally magically fix themselves, and that was not the case whatsoever. So for the following 3.5 years, we had some major challenges, like with her, like a postpartum depression that got escalated. And then also with the physical challenges that she had at the time compounded, into it all. So we ended up like losing the business, losing the house, the cars, all of the things, not able to pay rent. And I remember, the day after I brought her back the first time from a mental health facility because of suicidal ideations and stuff, my landlord showed up with an eviction notice, because I couldn't pay rent, and I was like, do you understand? I just brought my wife home from, and they're like, well, I talked to my lawyer and told me to serve you these things, so it was dark, man. It was like really, like having a 2-week-old baby at home and mom is in the hospital, and that's it, like this is all I got. This is all that now is, everything is up to me, so that was like the first really hard thing. And that lasted about 3 years, which led us to ultimately get divorced. And then her to continue to pursue her health, her healing, in whatever way that she could. She made a lot of choices at that time. Some of them weren't the right choice, but I don't even know if she knew which way was really the right way. It was just a lot going on. Separation from kids, and all of that kept going, until the point that I became a single dad with all 3 of them, including the youngest was 3 at that time. And I didn't have anybody like in town, I didn't have, her family wasn't here. I didn't have, my family obviously is in Brazil. My friends were like from work because I moved back from Colorado and stuff. So I literally had to like do everything for all 3 of them and myself, and a full-time job to be able to, make things happen. And that, and that was like 2018. So when 2019 turned around, I had it. You know what I mean? I was just like, okay, if I can survive this, I can definitely commit myself to being a fucking artist.
So you're tested by fire,
Mm-hmm.
right? You go through all of these different crazy lives.
Yeah.
As you've said in the past, you've
Mm-hmm.
lived many lives.
Many
right?
lives.
And so you have this life in your teens as an international model.
Mm-hmm.
You have the ability to just fall back on daddy's money kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you instead choose your own path because you want to express yourself through art.
Yeah.
You start your own apparel company. It grows. You have success in there. You have success with photography. You meet the right woman. You have the kids. You have your 3rd kid, and everything besides your kids is snatched away from you.
Yeah.
And so if anybody had programs about not feeling deserving,
Right.
they're crumbling under that weight.
Mm-hmm.
What kept you going?
I'm stubborn, and I have like this core of thing inside of me about the responsibility. You know what I mean? Not only the responsibility that I have, like, to my boys, you know what I mean, to provide and protect and everything else, but also that I have for myself. That was like this. It was part of my value system. Like there is no room to quit. There is no way that I'm retreating or failing, or that doesn't exist. So
Didn't even register.
no, there was never like, oh, okay, I'm gonna maybe, even my dad, reached out from Brazil and said, hey, move here, or we'll buy a place in Florida, go live over there, because it's closer to them and stuff, and all of these things. And, I stayed strong and steady and kept inching forward. You know what I mean? That I don't know how many times I locked myself up in my closet so I could cry without my kids seeing it. You know what I mean?
What are you telling some man that's going through that same exact struggle?
that it does get better, that you need support. At that time, I went to every counseling thing that I could find. Every support group that there was listed, I was there. After work, I would go to churches and hospitals and places that people have the support groups. And not a single time I heard a word of encouragement. And not a single time people could even relate to it, like at all. The most common reply that I got every time that I voiced what I was going through was, my ex was like that.
Yeah.
So, now that, I'm part of Men's to King, it's this men's group that I met Brandon through, I met you through and stuff. It's like, I wonder, like, what would it be like? Like, what could have been like if I had that support then?
Right.
So my message for anyone out there, men and women that are going through something that might seem catastrophic or might seem like beyond their means, to like, you need support. And there's people out there that are more than willing to show up and be there for you. I just didn't know where to find them at that time. I really, I went everywhere, and everywhere that I went, it was like a closed door, or like, well, good luck, buddy. That was my ex. I'm glad we broke up. I'm like,
and some men don't even search for that type of support.
No.
And I think that's insanely important for men, is to have brothers that they can go to, is to have men, because it's one thing for the most part, if you go to a woman or you go to your woman and you go, oh, here's all the things that I had to deal with today, you're going to get a massively different energy than you would if you went to a brother of yours.
Absolutely.
Somebody you've been in the trenches with.
Yeah. And, I had done LS. I had men in my life that I could reach out and connect with or look for support. But, that lone wolf thing that guys have, that thing, oh, I got it. Everything is fine. I got it. Like, no worries.
But you're saying your message to yourself was, it gets better. But it sounds to me like it should be, don't lone wolf this. You need
now I know
to
that.
find these men.
Yeah.
You need to find
totally.
brothers that will support you in a way that's conducive to what you're attempting to gain the result of.
And that was something that it came to light to me, like maybe 2 weeks ago or so on the call, the men's the King's Corner call that we do on Saturday mornings. We were talking about that, the support and stuff and whatever. And all of this time, in my mind, I had the idea that if I had the support, I could have saved the marriage. That has been like the image like that in my mind. It was like, oh, what, if I had the support, if I had my whatever, or better tools, we could still be together. And then, during that call, it became clear to me that if I had the support, maybe it wouldn't have taken 3 years for me to freaking go love myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because like what made the biggest change, what made me like want to like end things and stuff, it was because I was unhappy, and there was nothing obviously that I could do that would make any difference. So I was like, okay, well, I'm losing myself, my sense of integrity. I mean, I started taking Prozac, because I thought that I was the problem, and then one day, it was a Saturday, and I realized that I really didn't want to go to the gym, and I was like, this is like my sanity. This is what I go for, for everything, leave everything there. That was my place. That was my place, and I knew that it was time that something was wrong with me, literally. Like that was the gym that took me out of that. I was like, okay, well, stop taking this freaking thing, because that's not who you are. You're not depressed, sick, or anything like that. And go to the gym, basically. You know what I mean?
Do you think that the concept of not feeling deserving might be that you don't feel deserving of love, and that's why you stuck it out?
Nailed it. Absolutely. It wasn't necessarily even that I didn't feel deserving of love, is that I was looking for love, without having it for myself. So like I needed to come from the outside to make me, be fulfilled, feel whole, feel complete, and when that stopped or that wasn't there anymore, then it was like, okay, well, I need to be able to do that for myself. I need to be able to give that to myself. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd actually like to dig in on that just a little bit more, because that's something that I absolutely felt when I was in my Lone Ranger phase of my life, where it's like, I don't need anybody else. I can figure it out. I'm okay. I wasn't looking for that support. All the while, everything was kind of spiraling downward around me. And it was my free pass, my exit, to just not be responsible for what was happening around me based on what I was inputting into those interactions and how I was showing up. And I think to your point about, hey, spending those years not being able to find support, looking for support, but not finding it. Once I was open to the idea of having support of other men and finding those people that wouldn't weaponize and abuse my trust in them, and then with things that I was sharing, to find that support, that was an immediate game changer. And that kind of, to me, touches on the, I am worthy of love.
Yeah.
No matter what, I might not be the best person. I might be making a lot of bad choices. However, if someone is trying to express some level of love and acceptance to me, is an opportunity for me to change the way that I'm showing up based on the experiences that I'm having with other people. And once I opened myself up to that, a lot of things really started to change. And I actually found a lot of people that were willing to show up and support, and even just start conversations with, hey, what's going on? How can I support you? Like, what a mind-blowing thing to say and to lead with, even to a complete stranger.
Yeah, because it's an invitation to vulnerability, and I have a painting about that, and the title of it is called "It's I'm Fine," and it's a happy face. I have a tattoo of it because it is a reminder for me to, am I being vulnerable right now with this person, when I'm meeting someone. And it's like, we all walk around with masks, and the painting is like a happy face that is all tethered and beat up, on the shoulders of a figure, so you can see that is a person or a human that is wearing this mask, and that's what I feel, that, there was no invitation for me to be vulnerable. The only thing that there was fight, and when fighting in the dark is very ineffective. You know what I mean? Because you don't know if you're hitting, who is hitting you, where it's coming from, where the target is. And that's what he felt, for that whole time. I was like fighting in a dark room, and then all of a sudden when the light opened up and I saw that there was a chance for me to choose myself, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, if I wasn't there, those boys were not guaranteed a future, So then,
it's also interesting the caliber of man who will go through these sorts of the struggles that you've expressed and stay, versus, this is really hard. I don't know how to handle it. I'm just going to go. Because a lot of men for many years, especially in Western civilization in the U.S., just choose out. They don't know what to do. They feel alone. They don't have any support, and they just bounce.
Yeah.
And so the thought process of, I don't care how bad I feel it's getting, I'm going to stay.
Yeah.
And figure it out, because, like you said earlier, you alluded to, it's temporary.
Yeah.
It isn't forever.
Right.
I just have to keep showing up and trying different things until I get a different result. That different result being the result that I want, so that things will be different.
Yeah, and it's like what Eddie asked me before. It was like, what was the vision? What was it that, was that something that brought me to that place, that have a vision of something and stuff? I don't think it was a specific vision. I think it was just more, I was after a feeling, I was after a feeling of feeling peace, of feeling like belonging, or feeling safe. You know what I mean?
That's what we all want.
Yeah. That's what, and I knew that I wasn't feeling those things. and they continued, and then became years of that and stuff. So that's, it came to the point that became the turning point,